Watch this.
You've seen the signs, the mailers, and probably the plethora of political TV ads. But are all those pictures taken in bad lighting with the deep-voiced, angry accusations even accurate? Probably not. Not that there's anything you can do about it.
When they get 40 or 50 people in here, that is very crowded for a game day, but they have gone like upwards of 100 to 200 at one time.
Boise's downtown population usually swells over the weekends, but when there's a Bronco football game going on, forget about it. So how does the city and how can you deal with it? On this day of recognizing voter registration, it's also worth remembering what it takes to make Election Day work. All the volunteer poll workers, but likely none like the Canyon County clan we met 2 presidential elections ago, and who are still doing their civic duty. 48 days out from November's general election, certainly one of the most unusual presidential elections we've seen in a long time. But there are also several statewide and local issues and candidates for Idahoans to decide. However, if you need another reminder about the importance of participating, today is National Voter Registration Day. But Idaho makes it easy to register at the polls on Election Day. So if you don't do it today or the next couple of weeks, you got a little time. But what's not so easy, deciding who gets your vote and deciphering the political propaganda meant to persuade you. Whenever we fact-check a campaign ad, as we have in past election years, and point out some parts of it that are either misleading, used out of context, or just flat out not true, we get asked, well, why then are political ads allowed to say such things? Well, a Boise State professor just published an article about that very thing. And he explains to Joe Paris, it's the First Amendment that paves the way for political candidates to play fast and loose with the truth in their political plugs.
Clock's ticking, closer and closer to Decision Day.
We've got an election coming up in less than 2 months, and it's on everybody's minds every single day.
Dr. Jeff Spurlock is the Associate Chair of Integrated Media in the Department of Media at Boise State. He's also the author of a timely piece in Etc.
The article is called Green Light, How Political Candidates Can Stretch the Truth in Broadcast Television Ads.
Did you know? Political candidates have a lot of leeway in political ads that you see on broadcast TV.
Political ads, regardless of what is said in there, is protected, and there's nothing that anybody can do about it. Political candidates know that what they're putting in their broadcast ads everything might not be the truth. But do the public know that? Not necessarily.
Why is this allowed? False advertising for products, for example, it's a major violation of FTC law. Companies like Airborne have been heavily penalized for misleading or untruthful ads. Dr. Spurlock writes in his piece, Airborne paid more than $23 million in a settlement over false advertising of their Miracle Cold Buster. Too bad they weren't a politician giving a campaign ad. Political speech is protected by a founding foundation of America.
The U.S. Constitution, the First Amendment, protects these political ads. They can lie to their heart's content.
There is some nuance between a candidate advertisement and a political action committee commercial, but for the most part, it's on the voters to ascertain what is fact, what is fiction, and what falls in between it.
I think they would roll in their graves right now as far as Jefferson and Adams and Washington, Benjamin Franklin, when they see the ads that are going on television right now. Has mudslinging been with us forever? Yeah, it's always been with us forever. It's going to be with us forever. But as far as advertisements, I don't think this is what they envisioned back then.
But it is where we are at this point in time. So what to do about the fact that a chunk of the electorate doesn't even know they're being lied to?
Do your due diligence. Check out your facts. Make sure that what you think might be true or might be false, check it out first before you go to the polls.
And I mean, that takes work.
Oh, it does take work, and not everybody is going to do it.
As we approach Election Day, Dr. Spurlock is reminded why this is a crucial conversation right now.
You know, this is our right. This is our privilege. We have our right. We have our privilege to hire the next president, and we all should do it.
So if you look at FCC rules on political ad content, they make it very clear. Broadcast stations like KTVB, We can't censor ads from legally qualified candidates. Also, the FCC doesn't pre-approve content or ensure that it's accurate, and neither can we. Broadcast networks, though, they're different than cable channels, and they have a slightly different rule and relationship with censorship and advertising and really accepting that. But Brian, a lot of this also does come down to being a legally qualified candidate. There's a whole list of things that the FCC says you have to do. You can't just say you're running for office, then buy ads and say whatever you want.
So you can lie, but where does libel, slander, defamation fall into this?
So you can definitely be held liable for things that you say. However, you just can't be disqualified from having a television ad because something in it is wrong.
Okay.
If there is a situation where you commit a different crime in the act of airing your political ad, that's a separate problem. But there's not blanket immunity just because it's a political ad.
Gotcha. All right, so next time we get these questions, now we know you can say whatever you want on these political TV ads. Thanks, Joe. You know, when it comes to football, it's more likely a team succumbs to an opening of a can of whatnot than actual whooping cough. But that is exactly what happened with the Portland State Vikings. They had to cancel their game last week for a team outbreak of pertussis, otherwise known as whooping cough. We're told they're good to go this week and will come into Albertson Stadium Saturday to be the foil in Boise State's home opener. Not sure if they know about Idaho's lowest in the country vaccination rate when it comes to kindergartners and whooping cough, but I digress. Depending on how well Viking fans travel, hopefully better than a respiratory infection, that will mean more people in downtown Boise. So what will that mean for open restaurant tables or even closed streets? Aspen Shumpert takes a look at the impact of game day in the City of Trees.
Bronco fans are making their way back to the blue this Saturday.
There's definitely an excitement and a buzz in the downtown area.
And downtown businesses are getting ready for the rush.
The fans just flood. It can be astronomical to us.
The Bronco shop is flipping the store to white forward for this week's color theme.
It switches all over again for next week.
With the BSU shuttle stop right out front, many stop in to get their Bronco swag for the day. The shop says a typical off-season day might reach $1,000 in sales. A game day can reach 10 times that. And it's not just the hometown team.
We see a good influx, especially from those out-of-town folks who are here to support the visiting team. So we definitely are, looking at the game day schedule and kind of preparing how much ice cream to have on hand.
So it's best to expect the volume in downtown when trying to get a bite.
Game day weekends definitely help drive people into downtown Boise.
And book ahead for a bed.
We get anywhere from 3 months out to the night of. The only thing that makes it hard is if the hotel is sold out or getting sold out.
Like games against BYU or Wyoming.
Teams will travel better, and we definitely see the pickup in demand for those.
But people aren't the only thing making it from downtown to the stadium. Lime Scooters says they anticipate about half of their 1,600 fleet of scooters and bikes in downtown Boise to get parked over at the stadium on game days. All traffic businesses plan for.
Go Broncos.
Go Broncos. Lime Scooter says there's about a quarter mile along the Greenbelt that people park the Lime Scooters and bikes at before heading into the games. After us asking for trip stats to the stadium, Lime says they're going to track that for the game this weekend. Another interesting thing, Brian, when I stopped into the Bronco shop, they said this home game is a little later than usual, so we're not passing out sunscreen and chapstick, but more jackets for this Saturday.
Might need a few extra layers, exactly. Okay, so we've heard leading up to this season, there are going to be some changes because a lot of people like to park downtown, get a meal, and then take a shuttle to the stadium.
Right.
Are there changes with that this year?
Yeah, that shuttle is what we saw outside the Bronco shop, and there are changes to it. So instead, in the past, Valley Regional Transit has been operating them, and those buses are larger than the Boise State shuttles. So Boise State is operating those this year, which means they're operating at about half capacity.
Okay.
So people should plan ahead to expect smaller buses, smaller seats to be able to get on and allow more time for you to catch that shuttle if you're making it over to the stadium.
Might have to catch a second go around as opposed to the first round. All right. Thank you very much, Aspen. A shooting area is closed because of, well, bad target shooting, but a recreation area is open now that it's marked safe from catching fire. Sophia Bliss has details on these stories and more in today's 411.
There are actually nothing legally binding them in these promises.
Dozens of workers rallied against the Kroger-Albertsons merger in Seattle yesterday as the trial got underway. Attorney General Bob Ferguson filed an antitrust lawsuit to try and stop the deal, saying the merger violates Washington's antitrust laws, eliminates Kroger's closest competitor, and would cause prices to go up. Kroger executives argue the opposite, saying the merger would allow them to compete better with Walmart and Amazon and will lower prices for consumers. Meanwhile, in Oregon, closing arguments in the Kroger-Albertsons merger case are happening today. We're waiting for a judge to rule on whether or not to temporarily block the merger. The Bureau of Land Management is temporarily closing recreational shooting in the Indian Springs area just south of Kimberly after they received 33 calls about a person, livestock, homes, and equipment all being hit by stray bullets. The 3,700-acre closure goes into effect Friday. We don't know how long it will last. Today, Idaho Fish and Game reopened the Horse Thief Campground for day use because the snag fire isn't threatening the area anymore. Overnight camping is still closed for the rest of the season, but good news for anglers, the Horse Thief Reservoir is getting 7,500 catchable rainbow trout this month. Construction on Highway 55 starts today and lasts through October 1st. ITD is rehabbing the highway from State Street to Horseshoe Bend. Construction will mainly be overnight from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m., so expect delays. A new pediatric rehabilitation unit is now open at St. Luke's Children's Hospital in Boise. Injured, ill, or patients who just got surgery can now get physical, occupational, and speech therapies. Before this, patients had to travel out of state for this care. And that's the 411 on the 208. I'm Sophia Bliss.
The family that blanks together stays together. How about this? How about the family that works elections together stays together? They were doing it 8 years ago, and they're doing it again this year. We're reintroducing you to the Pancaries, a family of prodigious poll workers. All right, this is the part of the show when we remind you what keeps the 208 going every day. Text messages from you. 208-321-5614. That's the number. Let us know any of your questions, your comments, or your concerns about any of the topics we've talked about today. Just don't forget your name and the hashtag the208. Well, we mentioned earlier, today is National Voter Registration Day. Don't worry if you forgot, it's only been a day since 2012. But every September since, on a Tuesday in September, it's a day to remind people about the importance of your right to vote and to register to do so if you haven't already. 1.5 million registered to vote on National Voter Registration Day in 2020, so I guess this day works, right? The day was not to be confused with National Poll Worker Day, which happens in August, but we thought we could at least these 2 days could walk alongside each other since sometimes they go hand in hand, which is why, well, today's 208 Redial, we pulled a story off the shelf about poll workers. It takes hundreds of volunteer poll workers to make Idaho's elections run smoothly. But there was one group in Canyon County who helped turn the civic duty of Election Day into more of a family affair. Meet the Pancaries. in today's 208 Redial. If your polling place is the Lakeshore Drive Baptist Church in Nampa,
Are you registered?
you've likely run into Joan Pancari,
What you got, Monica?
who's worked the past 23 years in Canyon County's Precinct 27.
Okay, thank you.
And you've also probably been checked in
And if I could just see your ID again.
by Joan's daughter, Cindy Squires, and her husband, Dave. That's 3 poll workers, 1 family.
We have a family that is really interested in making sure people get the opportunity to vote.
But the Pancari clan covers more than just 1 precinct.
PH or B?
About 10 miles to the north, you'll find Jolynn Dykes, the senior judge for Precinct 16.
Brenda, I'm taking 17.
And she's Joan's granddaughter. But Jolynn has surrounded herself here with family too.
So I have my husband, and then my nephew, and then my sister-in-law, and my niece is sitting up at the front desk.
And that's about all the time she has to talk.
Okay, thank you.
So if you're keeping track, that's 2 precincts, 8 parts of the Pancari family. 4 miles to the west is the polling place for Precinct 15, under the direction of Dixie Parker.
And you can go ahead and start filling it out, and you can take it with you when you go.
Yep, you guessed it. She also has Pancari pedigree.
That's correct.
She is Joan's daughter, Jolynn's mother, and, by the way, McKenna Ireland's grandmother, a first-time Pancari poll worker.
Pretty cool, huh?
Totally. And if you ask Dixie, she started this whole election lineage herself.
I couldn't work one time, and I had my mom fill in for me, and that kind of started her working. And then I needed somebody, and I talked my daughter into it. And then I needed somebody again, and I talked her daughter into it. So it just kind of grew.
So the final tally? 10 family members, 4 generations, 3 precincts, and 1 big responsibility.
We believe in the United States of America and making a difference.
Brian Holmes, Idaho's News Channel 7. Well, Pancari's been making a difference for years, including this upcoming election in November. But instead of 10 family members from 4 generations scattered across 3 precincts in Canyon County, the Pancari clan will be under one roof at Celebration Church. But sadly, it'll only be 3 generations since Joan passed away in 2020. We spoke with Dixie today, and she told us the plan is for Cindy and Jolynn to join them again this year, but they're going to wait and see. And Dixie's granddaughter, McKenna, who was working the polls for the first time in 2016, she's actually going to be in charge of the precinct. She's taking over for Dixie, who will just be, well, in her own words, just a volunteer poll worker. But she will be adding her grandson, Kyler Morris, to the mix, who will be working his first election this November 5th. And if you're looking for more information on how you can help at the polls this Thursday, it's a poll worker education event with Idaho Secretary of State Phil McGrain. It's going to be from 11:30 to 1 p.m. at the Idaho Outdoor Field House. It's on Barber Valley Drive in Boise. It's going to highlight how veterans and their families can serve at the polls. And if you haven't, maybe take today to register to vote, or any day up until Election Day.
So let's start out and just show you the current temperature, which happens to be the high today, only 61 degrees. The showers certainly brought the temperatures down. It's helped out in a lot of ways as far as the smoke. Hopefully we're looking at that as far as the fires are concerned too, especially the last couple of days, and some spots getting over 1.5 inches of rain in mountain locations. So the 61 for today is well below the average of 80. And you see the record lows, or not the record low, but the low this morning was 52, and the average low is 52 degrees. Here's your record at 24. Boy, that would be cold. But we didn't have anything like that, nor do we anticipate anything like that. Now, for this evening, when you're thinking, well, you know, we've had 2 days of rain, kind of wonderful to see. It's a change, but then at the same time, if you're ready for the rain to go away, I think I could show you that, especially right here. If you look at the Futurecast, there's some rain showers up here around McCall that could still move down towards Stanley, some rain showers up toward Haley. So mostly mountain locations, and in some of these spots could receive about 1/4 inch of rain. Okay, that is just for this evening alone. I don't really see much of anything down here toward the Boise area or into Mountain Home. There could be a light rain shower in Twin Falls. So for tonight, with some of the showers to the north of us, I should say, you know, a little sprinkle is still possible here in the next couple of hours, but we are starting to move out of this. So here's the rain, as you can see up in some of these mountain locations. Still some pretty good amounts, and still, you know, 0.07 of an inch for Twin Falls, but not anticipating a lot down here in the valley, maybe a trace if that. Now I just wanted to show you across the nation that some of the temperatures are fairly warm in the upper Midwest. Chicago with 86, Memphis 87, down in the south, temperatures in the 80s. Phoenix didn't hit 100. They were up to 96 for today. And then there's Boise's temperature. Of course, those are the forecasts, These are not the highs for today. They're the forecast highs for tomorrow. Read the signs, Rick. So as you notice this, temperatures are coming up, and Boise coming up to about 73 degrees. So 7-day forecast, no more first alert weather days in this forecast, at least for the next 7, but we do see plenty of sunshine. Temperatures coming up, but not a lot. Mountain storms to our north could keep us in a few clouds once in a while, or a possibility of a very light shower. Overall, you see some very pleasant weather.
All right, we got plenty of comments to get through today on this Tuesday, I believe it is. Let's get to them right now. This one from Bill J. While it would be nice for political ads to be truthful, I certainly don't want media outlets making decisions about which ads can be run and which can't. That's a good point, which is why we don't. We just put it all out there and let you decide, which leads to this sometimes. Sadly, the more you tell a lie, the more you believe it to be true. Social media makes that true more often than it shouldn't. That's according to Randy there. But also, how do you check out these facts? We tell you to kind of do your own research sometimes. It just depends on where you're comfortable going. But sometimes it's just as simple as Googling a topic and a candidate, and somebody probably has already done the work for you. Go to a worthy source, a reliable source, one that you trust, and that'll tell you whether or not what you're looking up is actually true or not, or what's being said about that person or candidate is actually true. When will absentee ballots be mailed, asked Janet in Meridian. According to Ada County, we looked up their website, those start to go out, I believe, the last day to request it on October 25th. So anytime after that, that's the last time. October 5th, is the last day to request an absentee ballot. And then early voting is the other question we have. When does early voting begin for the general election? This is from Ray in Caldwell. I guess this depends on your county, but again, in Ada County, that starts on October 15th. But you should check the county in which you live. That may be a different date to kind of figure out when the early voting will begin wherever you live. Boise State game. Don't expect Portland State revenue with them, or should say, don't expect Portland State revenue traveling into town. Is that what I'm supposed to, with them a 41-point underdog? That's according to Rick. So maybe they're not going to have a lot of fans. Actually, though, not that I'm promoting gambling, 38.5 is the point spread now.
Continue with us and watch free now on the KTVB Plus app everywhere you stream.